Hey everybody, Norm here again, uncovering the new features in LabVIEW 2025 Q3 and kind of digging deeper into them, letting you know what are some of the things I find in R&D's notes about the features and how it's going to impact what you're doing so that you can find these new features and start to take advantage of them. So in this session, we're going to talk about the context help window, the little unsung hero that floats around our diagrams or a window off to the side, letting us know what's underneath our mouse cursor, what's underneath our mouse cursor and what relevance does it have for the moment. So let's go ahead and get into the code and see what we've got. All right, so we've got, let's go ahead and actually open up a VI that's really gonna help us illustrate this. So I've got a little VI here that calculates pi out to so many 1,000 digits, but there's a lot of sub VIs on here that operate in a certain way. Now, if I wanted to understand, is a VI reentrant or how's it gonna execute, how's it gonna impact my diagram? Normally what I would have to do is I would have to go into that sub VI, I'd have to go into the sub VI properties, I'd have to go into the execution system of that sub VI, and then I'd have to start scrolling around and looking at things like, is it debugging turned on or off? Is it reentrant? Is it inline? Is it the priority system and the execution? Like all of these things that can have a substantial impact on how fast or slow in some cases, or if at all, your block diagram and your code will run. And so what we've got here is now the ability, as you can see, let's go ahead and close that. If I were to hover over, say, the icon in the upper right-hand corner of a sub VI, I can see context help for that VI. And you can see that we're calling out some very specific non-default behaviors of a sub VI. And so I can see here that it's reentrant and its execution system, and there's some other things that I can't remember, but let's go ahead and minimize that and some of these things. The same thing exists if you hover over it as a sub VI in a block diagram. But let's go to the sub VI that actually I made for myself as a bit of a cheat sheet. And let's kind of hover over some of these things that really matter here. So to note specifically, it will tell you if it's non-default reentrancy, execution priority, and the preferred execution class. So if you've never explored those things, dig into them, ask Nigel about them. There's some really interesting things that you can do to really turn the screws on sub VI performance in a few different directions. And then also if a sub VI is flagged to be inline. And so all of these things can have significant improvements or drawbacks depending on whatever's happening on your block diagram. So now that all of this information, as you can see kind of down here, let me go ahead and zoom into that a little bit more, that you can see as you hover over those individual elements, it will now be noted underneath the description and above the discuss with Nigel kind of hot link on the context help window. As another extra kicker that I didn't actually know before getting into this is that actually if you have a project open, and you can see as well as you hover over sub VIs in a project, you will also see the context help for those specific nodes. So I thought that was particularly helpful, and I wanted to make sure that you knew the same thing that I didn't know earlier as well. All right, so let's see what we've got here. So that's those features. All right, so the next feature, I don't have a sub VI to open up per se, but the other one that's going to be really, really helpful for those of us working with .so files, shared objects, or DLL files. I don't know what Mac does. Put it in the comments. Let me know, educate me on what extension Macs use for the call library function node. But what we add now to the context help here is the ability to go ahead and see the function prototype. And so why would somebody want to do this? Well, if you, the alternative is you have to say, double click on the individual node to figure out what method is actually being called from that specific VI. Not only would you have the function name, you have the full prototype that lets you know whether something's passed by value or a handle or a pointer or all these things that I as a LabVIEW programmer don't normally need to worry about all that much. And then the other one that's also useful is what is the library name being called. So you can see it, if it's a long path, it will display it. But if it's just a kind of a system level DLL, it'll just have the whatever .dll, .star, or whatever it is. Actually, I was doing one very recently with, let's see, in my measurements with switch executive. Let me go ahead. All right, so I've got switch executive, and if I were to go into that individual function, I've got my context help open. You can see that's a reentrant and pre-allocated clone VI. I'm gonna get to the block diagram. For those of you who stuck around, pro-life tip. If you hold down Ctrl while you double click a sub VI, it will automatically take you to the block diagram. So Most people don't know about that one. You stuck around for this portion of the video. Congratulations. You're smarter than most LabVIEW programmers out there. Once again, Control double click on a sub VI takes you to the block diagram. And so in this case, I can go ahead and hover over, and you can see that if I were to kind of look over any one of these individual nodes, like I was doing earlier today with somebody that didn't have 2025 Q3, I can now see, oh, it is calling the switch executive DLL, and it's calling basically a simple some kind of C string pointer thing in there, but whereas normally I would have to double click on that and I would have to look around all of these individual parts of the dialog just to get that information that now I can get just by kind of hovering over an individual item on the block diagram, and I can see that information presented before me in that context help. All right, so hopefully you got some tips and tricks on that one. Hopefully you like the feature. We put the time and effort to enhance the context help window. Do you like it? Do you want more in the context help window? Should we overhaul the context help window? All of these things we're interested in hearing back from you to make sure that we're staying aligned with the features that you're looking for and seeing if it's going to accelerate what you do. Those anecdotes of, oh, I do that all the time and now I don't have to. Please let us know. I will absolutely forward them along to R&D, who are eager to hear your success stories based on some of these features that they're investing their time in. And so I look forward to seeing you in the other featurette videos, talking a deeper dive of some of the 2025 Q3 features. Thanks.